Hello and welcome to Community Chats. What makes independent living truly work? In this episode of Community Chats, I have a conversation with Linda and Ken, and we explore the move of their son, Ian, towards independent living. This conversation highlights the power of friendships, family, and long-term trusted support through the 25-year friendship of Ian and Philip. Their lives together highlight some of the most important ingredients of independence: choice, complementary strength, strong family connections, accessible communities, and support that evolves over time. We also explore the lasting impact of direct support professionals who build relationships rooted in trust and consistency and genuine connection. It's a conversation about belonging, interdependence, and what becomes possible when people have the right support to build a life of their own choosing. So grab a coffee, settle in, and let's chat, because belonging begins with listening. Linda and Ken, thank you for joining us today. Really looking forward to this conversation and appreciate you taking time on what is today a very sunny July morning. Thanks for joining.
No, we're always delighted to talk about Ian and community living, so thank you.
And you're going to get to talk about yourselves a little bit too, so hopefully that's okay as well.
No problem.
All right.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about yourselves. How did you both meet? How did you tell us a little bit about your lives?
Well, believe it or not, we were in grade 9 together, and it took me until grade 12 to ask Linda to a dance. And then Linda went off to university at University of Waterloo, where she got a mathematics degree. I went to Western, and then I did some postgraduate work out in Alberta. We went there. We then went and taught high school for 2 years in Australia, and there we had our first son. Returned to Ontario and lived in various places, including Thunder Bay. And
so you were both born and raised in and around Toronto. Is that
in Owen Sound? Yeah.
Owen Sound. Okay, so you went to high school in Owen Sound or in Toronto?
It's Owen Sound.
Owen Sound.
Okay. So is there only one? I've been to Owen Sound, but is there only one high school there? Or?
There was at that time, but there are two now.
Okay. So, and it took you 4 years, Ken, to get up the nerve to ask Linda to a dance. That's a lot of runway.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Yeah,
that's
she's
good.
being picky.
Were you. So by the end of the 4 years, by the time you got there, you were pretty confident that this was the person you wanted to spend more time with.
Yeah.
And it has been, 58 years. Has been lovely to share that background. We don't need to explain what Owen Sound was like. We don't need to explain what the neighbors were like. I don't think our families knew each other, but our families knew people in common.
Right.
Yes, it's a good way to have a relationship.
Right. Excellent. Now, and 58 years, congratulations. You're coming up on 60. I hope you do something big for that. That's a big milestone.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
So now you mentioned you had a child when you were living abroad. Tell us about your family.
Well, our oldest boy, Vance, is now 54. And he's single, but does very well in the finance area. And then Ian is now 52. I'm not good with ages, so
that's it. Yes, they have a lot of aunts and uncles. They're older, so not many now, but they grew up with a lot of aunts and uncles.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to say one thing. When I was in Owen Sound growing up, my mother and father were foster parents for many years, and they one of their foster children was adopted and is one of my sisters, and another learning disabled fellow, Billy, he lived with us, and unfortunately he died in a high school camping trip. But Billy was very much part of the family, and so I grew up in that environment with all kinds of kids. It was like growing up in a group home, I think. And
Okay.
Billy had special needs, but he had a lot of characteristics that Ian has.
Yeah.
He was
Okay.
determined. And
Spirit,
and
spirit,
spirited individual.
capable of so many things.
Yeah.
I
And
was a I was a foster parent myself for a number of years, and I still look back on those years as wondering how I made it through, but also
yeah,
the connections that you keep with people years later, and just the understanding you gain of how different people experience life and
Sure.
growing up differently. So you talked about your son Ian, and Ian was born with a disability. Talk us through that. What happened there?
So Ian was born in Thunder Bay, and he convulsed shortly after he was born and was in a coma for 6
Oh no.
days. So that's one of the other advantages Ken and I think we had with raising Ian. First of all, we knew Billy and how bright he could be. And secondly, we knew from day one that we would have to make a special effort for stimulation, for being patient, just for all that takes to being the parent of a handicapped child. So I
Right.
think that was a disadvantage, an advantage.
Right. So
Yes.
because some parents don't notice that their child isn't reaching the milestones they should be at, say, for a year and a half, 2 years, and then there's a
Right.
huge adjustment. I know at that point.
Yeah.
We
The other thing, Thunder Bay had a crippled children's center, served all of Northern Ontario. But there
Mhm.
was a woman there called Mrs. Nemi, and Ian went there for speech therapy. So
Okay.
now we went there for 3 years. I think maybe the last 6 months we did speech, but the first 2 years it was all about concentration. And I would sit in a closet with louvered doors to see what she did, and then I would repeat it at home. And
Okay.
years later, when Ian would be assessed, it was always mentioned how great his concentration was. And Ian will read a manual. We sort of ignore it and go with the buttons, right? But
Yeah.
Ian has that concentration, and that was those early years that we sort of sometimes wondered, when are we going to get to the speech part? But
Right.
now we realize that she was really
There was a
putting great
methodology that
foundation.
she was
Yeah.
following. Okay.
Yes.
So born in Thunder Bay, took speech and language stuff up there. I assume went to school. When did you come to Toronto?
We came to Toronto when Ian was 5. And we love Toronto. Toronto gives you so many choices. It gives you so much support, so much opportunity. Yes.
Is that why you moved, or did you move because of work or other reasons? Or
because of my work.
okay.
I was with the provincial government, and I got promotions down in Toronto.
Okay.
And our family was down here. We wanted to come back to our family in Southern Ontario. And then Ian went to the Crippled Children's
Hugh
Center.
McMillan Center first.
Okay. Yeah.
And then he went to the Bedford Park Language Program,
Mm-hmm.
and then Ledbury Park
Okay.
Language Program, and then went in North York to Lewis S. Beatty it was, and then Drury Secondary School. So throughout
In North York there, yeah.
special programs, except once they tried to integrate the children into normal classrooms.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
And actually I was one of the advocates to not, because Ian brought home a sheet with photosynthesis in it. I remember
Okay.
that word,
A science
and I'm
project.
thinking, oh boy,
Yeah.
and the papers coming home just they weren't helpful.
So they weren't really accommodating Ian's learning
No.
and his needs into the classroom.
Yeah, he excels at activities of daily living, and that's what they started in their programs.
Okay. Now you talked about Ian, and you mentioned that he went to a number of different schools, and that he had to at some point take a bus to school on his own. What did you go through to get him ready for that?
Yes. So there's always a great fear when it's new and your child is out in the community. So the preparation has to be great. And so in this instance, Ian and I rode the bus together to find the best route. Then we rode the bus on that route. It involved changing, so that was a little bit tricky. And then it evolved to Ian being at the front of the bus making the decisions, and I was at the back of the bus. And then when we were both comfortable, he would go on his own and I would follow the bus in the car. It was a lovely skill. It's a great skill for any child to have, and it's paid off. He and his roommate Philip go anywhere on the TTC in Toronto. That was a great skill.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I had a foster son as well and did the same kind of approach to TTC orienting or training or whatever it was. And I was living off Kipling, and everything was great, and it had been working for a few months. And then at some point he was very late coming back from where he was, and he discovered the rush hour express buses. So it went, despite all his pulling on the cord to stop the bus was still going and wasn't stopping until it hit Eglinton or whatever it was, and he had to walk back. And it was a nice lesson that he was resilient enough to know, oh, I just missed the stop, I've got to go back, and was just annoyed that it was February or whatever, and he had to go for a longer walk than he was prepared for. So that's excellent that he was able to develop those skills and continues them to this day.
And your foster son would have learned to ask for help, or that there are other ways to do things. And
yeah, excellent. So Ian, at some point, and one of the things we really wanted to dive into talking about today, decided that he wanted to live on his own. So take us back to, I think that was 1999. And what was going through your mind when this idea came up?
Well, Ian was 26, so it really wasn't on our mind, but his brother had moved out a little while before. And I think Ian just wanted to make his own decisions. And so we must have reached out to community living, because we met Francis McNeil.
Oh, yeah.
And for a year, Francis worked with a group of families trying to find a living arrangement for us, whether it was buying a house together and staffing it, or whatever. I think it was a year we met with these people, but it turned out that their disabilities were too great.
Right.
Ian's very good at independent living, and other children weren't. And so then Francis must have thought of the SIL program, and Chris Pope came one evening with Philip.
So SIL, just so for the lingo.
Right. Supported independent living.
Got it.
So thanks. That was an option, I guess, that Francis knew about, but we didn't know about. Well, she probably mentioned it, but we were still working with other families.
So I must tell you, when Philip came to the house for the first time, they hit it off like gangbusters, because they both worked in a factory setting. Mm-hmm. They both worked with lift trucks and
forklifts,
and knew all about cardboard compaction on the site.
Okay.
And Ian took Philip up to his bedroom to show him the things, whatever. And you could tell they just started to bond right there.
An instant connection, instant bond.
Yeah, it was. And they have a 20-year age difference.
Okay. So Ian would have been 20. You said Ian was 26.
26. Mm-hmm.
So Philip was in his 40s.
And he had been in the SIL program himself for quite a number of years. But he was a young, he's always been a young age, if you know what I mean. And
so youthful spirit.
That worked really well. And they went into their apartment together, and they've been together now over 25 years.
They had a bit of a wait. But in that time they were socializing. We're getting to know each other. And then finally in October they could move in together. Okay.
So that's a big move, right? So 25, 26 years living with you. And this idea comes up that wanting more independence, following in his brother's footsteps. And suddenly the opportunity to move into, it was an apartment, I guess, that he was, an apartment with a roommate who you just met, but we're getting to know. Yes. How was that? Some fear, some nervousness, or what?
Yeah, it was, but because Philip had been in the program, and Philip's mom and dad, who have now passed, they were fantastic. And
Okay.
they were really good, and we took a lead from them, I think, to a large degree. And
Again, I think it was the preparation. We painted their apartment. We
Yeah.
painted Ian's room the color he wanted. We painted Philip's room the color he wanted. So we tried to make it exciting for everybody. They weren't all that far away from us at the beginning,
Okay.
so that was helpful.
Yeah, I remember some of the first nights. It was up. Their apartment was up near Bayview and Finch, and the noise of the traffic, and that was different from what Ian experienced in our neighborhood. And he was nervous, and we went over a few times, but he very quickly adapted.
Oh yeah.
To it. That it was independence. That was the big thing.
Okay. So what was there one moment or a series of things that really gave you the confidence to know that he was ready? I mean, you mentioned that he brought it up, so he'd obviously done some thinking about this on his own, and you'd worked with Francis for a while, so you were getting a sense of it involved. But was there a moment or a series of things that sort of said to you, "Yeah, this can work"? Or how much were you going on sort of faith and confidence that this would work out versus just knowing that this was going to work? I guess what I'm getting at, do you have advice for people that are considering when's the right time?
When's the right time? Well, I guess the right time, I think we have found Ian's always been ready before us. So when your child is ready, it's probably the right time. And then again, you prepare. But Ian was very good. He could make meals, he could shop, he was good with money. So he was an independent young man.
Right.
There's always a but though, right? You know the buts. Like we think he's perfect, but there's the phone call or when it's not. So, but basically 95% of the time, Ian's very independent. And so we knew that, right?
Yeah.
We knew that.
But there were times like the computer. We didn't think he was ready for a computer.
Yeah.
But Aaron, this is a few years later, but Aaron said, "Oh no, he's capable of that. No, give him a try." So, okay, we'll try it. There may be some other examples of that where he really was ready, and we weren't quite sure.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's the other thing. We had Aaron Van de Veen as Ian and Philip's.
Yeah, you mentioned Aaron. So tell us about Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron Van de Veen was their support worker for 16 years. He's still in our lives. He's still a valued friend and advisor in our lives. And Aaron was just so laid back.
Yeah.
Yes, the guys can do it. Yes,
Okay.
let them do it.
Yeah.
So actually it was probably our support for all those years too, right? So that's the thing, I guess. When you get support for your child, you're obviously lucky enough to get support for you.
Right.
yeah, and we'd say that about all the workers within community living that these guys have had right up to today with Nadine and they're just they're amazing. They help with conflicts that might be within the apartment building, or with the landlord or something.
The government letters.
The government letters that forms have to be filled out.
Yeah.
They still need weekly. It's just a weekly visit and make sure things are happening correctly. Are they buying too much junk food? Are they spending money in the right way? And they've been so helpful in smoothing the water, and we've been able to step back a bit from that directive.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that Ian was ready, or I think you said has always been ready for things before you were. Talk about that a bit more.
Well, it was the newspaper. He was ready for that. He was equipped. He did it well.
This is the Toronto having a newspaper route.
Toronto Star newspaper route. Yes.
Right. So what happened there? What was that? It was.
Well, there was a young woman. Oh, she was 16 or so. She had been the paper girl in the neighborhood, and actually the suggestion came from her father and her father to say, "Hey, we know Ian in the neighborhood. Why doesn't he take over the route?" See, we never thought about it, and so that was the neighbor who said, "Give me a chance." And so the daughter and Ian worked together and showed him the route in the neighborhood.
Right.
Ian got right onto it, and I went with him a few times, and then on the Friday nights, I think it was when it was collection time, I would stay out on the sidewalk, and he'd go up with the little ticket and knock on the door and say, you know, you owe
Right.
me 80 cents or
80
whatever
cents.
it was. And he had a little pouch there. He saved money, and he was very diligent about delivering the papers on time and very diligent about collecting. And I remember one time Linda and I and Ian were in a grocery store, and there was a neighbor, let's say at number 23, and he'd say, there's number 23, she hasn't paid for 2 weeks or something.
She owes the 80 cents, and yeah.
Oh, he was diligent. Oh yeah, it was important. And so then, unfortunately, the Toronto Star decided at some point that it should be adult carriers. And so
Right.
all these kids, and it was great. I was a paper boy. And,
Yeah, so was I.
And it was good. It was a good responsibility. And so Ian likes to tell people that he then retired for the
Okay.
first time. He retired from the Toronto Star, and they
Retired
gave
at
him-
14 or 15 or whatever, however old he was. Yeah.
and he got a payout of $50. He was quite pleased about that. So anyway, but that's a good example of where we would never have thought of approaching them and say, hey, can Ian take on a paper route? It was the neighbors who saw it.
His neighbor, his community sort of saw that potential
Exactly.
and brought you along with it, I guess, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the element of, and I think you've talked about this, is that fear can play a factor in, and worry about what could happen. What are your thoughts on fear and dealing with that, or the worry that can come around what can happen? Because every parent can relate to that, no matter what your kids are doing or involved with.
You
Right.
have no idea of the lists and the maps I have made over the years, right? So yes. So
But
That's
the
good.
fear has been out. We've been very lucky, again, going back to the workers and helping us through the system. And we've had our share of having to work through the systems and try to get support and try to get issues resolved.
Right.
The one fear that became realized is that when Ian was working with Loblaws, he was super tired. It was taking a toll on
he
him.
had a COVID shot.
He'd had a COVID
no,
shot.
that was the next one. Okay.
And
Yeah.
he fell at work and he broke his neck.
Oh,
And,
wow.
That really set him back, and he never did go back to work as a result of that. But he's
Mhm.
fine today, and it hasn't affected his happy outlook on life.
Now, community living,
Yeah.
that was Al Merrick's and Sarita Jackman.
Mhm.
They gave so much of their time and thoughts for both him and us to get through that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that
Yep.
was scary.
They were there the whole time. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is scary. I'm glad to hear that he's recovered. I didn't know that. I didn't know that story.
You didn't know that story. Yes.
Yeah. So you've talked about the importance of the staff that are connected with community living, but there's lots of people in the province that do direct support work and work with people with disabilities. For those staff that are, and you've had very positive experiences with people that you're talking about, what are some things or advice that you'd have, or things that you noticed about staff over the years that really stood out? So if I'm a support worker thinking, listening to you speak, what are the things that really separated the staff that were excellent in your mind?
Well, I'm just getting a phone call through my ear. I think we've had good relationships with the workers, and I think we've tried to make the point that we want to ask questions. We want to make sure that what's being proposed or suggested for Ian is good, but at the same time we got to keep back, and we can't force ourselves and say, well, this is the way we want it to happen. And
Right.
I don't think we've ever done that, right? And so we've had a good working relationship.
So it's been a balance between your concern around Ian's safety and care and his life and just for him, and the staff's professional perspective on what he's capable of, and that sort of back and forth in exchange.
Yeah.
So we have to mention Aaron.
Yeah.
Aaron just knew them so well. So I guess that's one thing. If you know them and know their strengths, Aaron they still visit Aaron 1 weekend a year, Ian and
Oh,
Philip.
wow.
And Aaron will still send us ideas like, should Ian and Philip consider this? So that's Aaron always sort of made that extra step. I have to mention one COVID Christmas. I think somebody in our family got COVID at the last minute, so Ian was going to be alone. Community Living, I think it was the supervisor, Catherine, sent him a Chinese dinner for Christmas. It had it delivered. It was so cute.
Oh, yeah, it was really
Nice.
We were all together on Zoom. We were each eating our dinner together, but Ian was in his apartment in Toronto having Chinese.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
So that, just that, to think of that, we were so.
The small touches,
Yes.
And another thing I was thinking of is Ian in the early days going to doctor's appointments, dentist appointment, eye appointments, so on. We would have gone with him, and gradually as he got older, and the workers would tend to do that. They go with him, and sometimes to significant discussions with the doctor and so on. And we've been back away. We're still very involved and informed, but and now Ian will go on his own to some of them. But
Nadine is really great at sending us information. Like when she goes with Ian, she's so thorough, and we just feel we know everything that's going on. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So yes, they're all great.
Yeah, that's good to hear. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Just as we get to the end of our time, a couple more questions. So across this journey, I know it's been sort of 25 since 1999 since he's been living on his own or with a roommate, and then 26 years before that. What's one of the biggest surprises? If it might be an unfair question, but throughout the whole journey, what's been the biggest surprise to you over all these years, looking back as young parents in Thunder Bay to now?
So I think as a young parent, you really worry about how able your child will become. And so Ian is always surprising us. Like he used to like working with Ken. They did woodworking projects. And one time they were building a cupboard, and Ian more or less said, "Do you think that will fit through the door?"
of the garage.
And just like that, you go, oh,
Yeah,
So those are lovely little surprises.
Well, I was going to say one, I don't know if it's a surprise, but it's when you look back, we have never shied away from sort of bragging or telling Ian stories to our friends.
Yeah.
And because he does have a different outlook on life sometimes. He'll say things that, when he says to Linda or I on the phone, "Have I got some crazy news?" Well, when he says crazy news, you don't know whether it means it's a letter from the government that he doesn't understand, or he's fallen or something. Anyway.
Right.
So anyway, he gets himself into situations that we enjoy telling them to our friends, and our friends have children with grandchildren and so on, and we have this unique individual.
Right.
And they share and that's been a good thing.
Yeah, that was very nice.
Excellent.
So there's one other thing I wanted to bring up since I have a chance to talk to other parents.
Yeah, of course.
Ian has an older brother.
Oh, yeah.
And at one point when I think Vance was about 13, so Ian would be about 10, Vance acted out. He pulled an alarm at school. And so we knew something wasn't right. And so we went for counseling. And it was very good for us. It was just, we were giving Vance too much responsibility. That's all there was to it. And so then we took on more. But it was, again, that's another person guiding us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say, don't be afraid to ask for others' opinions, or, you don't have to do it alone. There's lots of
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Good
so as we get older, community living gives us comfort
Yeah.
in that we know Ian will have a home and support. when we're not here. And his brother will have support when we're not here.
That is such a, I think it's an important note to sort of end on, is that you're in a fortunate situation in that regards, in that you know what the future looks like. You've got 25 years of experience with this, and you know what the future brings. So many parents across the province are waiting for some type of they don't know what the future future holds.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
good that you mentioned that.
Yes.
Final question. With the story of Ian and Philip and their sort of being roommates for 25, 26 years, or 27 years, whatever it is,
Yeah.
more than 25 years. What do you hope that people take away from their story?
Oh, I know. They complement each other so well, and they have patience with each other so well. Philip's the social butterfly. He talks on the phone because his speech is clear. Ian's the organizer. He reads the manuals. He's the techie guy.
Yeah.
They just complement each other, and they just have the patience to work together and make it work. Yeah.
Good.
They just,
Yeah.
it's a lovely story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the right fit.
Yeah.
So the fit is important. That idea of
Yeah.
living with a roommate, because so many times people these days want to live alone, and the independence is more than that sort of codependency or living together and being with someone, even though you're not, you're sharing space, but you're also sharing part of your life. So that's good to hear that that's worked out with them. Final question. I promise this will be my final question, because I've sort of alluded to this a couple of times. So in terms of belonging, and you've now been in the city of Toronto for many years, and you've seen Ian and Philip, you've been involved in your community in that. What does belonging mean to the both of you?
So yes, so belonging. We think you want to belong to family and friends, right? So I would encourage parents to involve family and friends so that's a belonging there. There's a belonging in a group. And so for Ian and Philip, that belonging has a lot to do with community living and the groups you support, like the Hub. And that's their groups, and they're building, so their groups. And then, of course, there's belonging in society. And so both Ian and Philip have good social skills. And that really helps. So when you're out at a doctor's office, when you're out at a restaurant, you belong. We've gone to a restaurant where the waitresses come up and said, "Hi, Ian." Like,
okay, yeah.
That's it. That's talks about Ian on so many levels. But so the social skills are important to be able to go into an office and talk to the secretary and talk
to be polite and
they're both. In fact, Philip really helped Ian in that way. Philip was always had better social skills, and Ian has picked them up.
He's picked them up, sort of come out of himself and grown. That's excellent.
Yes, and
that's excellent. Well, thank you for taking the time today. You are both an inspiration. As much as your son has grown and lived his life, that was in large part enabled or made possible because of the love and compassion and sort of planning, as you said, for the future that you both had. So really a privilege to talk to you both. And thanks for sharing your story today.
Well, sort of a partnership, isn't it? Community living.
I'm glad you see it that way. We do as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're very honored to be invited to speak to you. So it's been great. Great opportunity.
Thank you both.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you for listening, watching, and sharing. We release a new episode of Community Chats on the 15th and the 30th of each month, so don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date.